last time I checked, today, I guess, represents a Victory Thursday. That's probably a first of its kind. So with that, welcome inside the vault for a Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. It is December 26th. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside my co-host and partner, Sarah Ellison, here to review and analyze and unpack more from yesterday's thumping. And it was a thumping indeed. 31-2 is the final. Baltimore improves to 11-5, Sarah, and now controls its own destiny down the stretch. It is simple. You win in the regular season finale against Cleveland. You take the division. You host a home playoff game in wild card weekend. And, of course, kickstart what hopes to be a very successful month of January and perhaps maybe even into February. Lots to get to today. Thank you for being here. Like the video on the way in. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification bell so you can be on hand for our daily Ravens content. Partner, great to see you. Hope you had a fun rest of your Christmas evening with the crew. We got a lot to discuss over the next hour.
It was a great evening. I got up and had a workout this morning. I'm feeling energized, but Bobby, the content won't stop coming. There's just so much out there. And this is on a day when a lot of the national crews aren't like their prime guys are still taking their Christmas break, which I don't blame them, but we're here working. We're here to bring you the content, and woo-wee. Lamar Jackson is changing the narrative. His last 2 weeks, including Christmas night in front of the world, we often say in front of the nation, in front of the world on Netflix, has people rethinking what they were saying about this MVP conversation. What is Las Vegas saying is the real question here, Bobby.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to kickstart with. After that, we'll take a look at what Ochocinco had to say. He went off in favor of Lamar. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers are reeling. We'll share some notes from his press conference and take a look at some AFC playoff picture projections that could play out in the coming weeks, including who the Ravens would and maybe wouldn't want to see, or maybe just from a fan base perspective, who you would not or would you want to see in Wild Card Weekend. But to your point, right here, the betting odds, according to ESPN Bet, have shifted, maybe not yet in favor of Lamar full-blown, but when you look at where they were entering Wednesday and where they stand today, it is notable. And Josh, of course, will play this weekend in Week 17, so he himself individually, as have the Bills, they have not completed yet 17 weeks of football, which is notable. But right now, entering Wednesday, I should say right now, plus 180, Lamar's MVP odds to win NFL MVP. Still, Josh in front at minus 225. But entering Wednesday, you see where things were. Lamar was plus 375 and Josh was minus 500. So we're going to share with you, of course, the shift that we've watched from either voters themselves or just national media members. Could be former players, could be media members just in general. But right now, you're also seeing a minor shift that is significant in the sports books that plays a part in public opinion, of course.
Bobby, those betting odds that you have up there, I mean, I can't remember since really being focused on MVP, which really has just been since Lamar's been in the conversation since 2019, because prior to that, the Ravens were never really in MVP conversations unless you go all the way back to when, Ray Lewis was around back in the day. And I don't know. So in Baltimore, we just haven't focused that much. But since we've been focused on it since 2019, this is as close as I've seen it in the last 5 years or so. I mean, to change it, look at how much it changed in one night. Yeah. I mean, it is. I've been watching shows this morning, and when I tell you there's so much back and forth, whereas 2 weeks ago, it's over. Or 3 weeks ago, it's Josh Allen. Nobody else has a chance. And now I'm listening to him this morning, and it's like, I don't know. Or some people is like, it's Lamar. I give Lamar edge. And somebody else, it's Allen. I just haven't seen it this close in the last 5 years. And honestly, it's kind of fun.
Right? It is fun. Yeah. And you get the sense that, some feel like, to your point, that it's a dead heap right now. Like this is coming into the regular season finale. Now, of course, the Bills will play the Jets this coming Sunday at home in their place in Buffalo, and then they'll finish up in the regular season finale against the Patriots. Now, again, those are two teams that are nowhere near the postseason conversation, but they are in division. We have seen crazier things happen within division games when all you really have to do is play for pride and maybe, just maybe, spoiler alert, Now, here are the MVP candidates stacked up against one another. And as we covered last night, and this graphic is courtesy of Netflix, Lamar's thrown for over 3,900 yards. He's run for over 850. And he's thrown and just accounted for 43 total touchdowns. Josh Allen, over 3,500 passing yards, just over 500 rushing yards, 38 total touchdowns. And Saquon at the running back position, who's still in this conversation, maybe not actually in the front runner part of the conversation, but at least maybe will receive some votes, over 1,800 rushing yards, 5.9 per carry, Sarah, 13 rushing touchdowns, a fantastic individual season. But what's universally recognized right now is this is a two-man race between Lamar and Josh. Look at what he's doing, Lamar. Just last night, of course, 255 all-purpose yards, 3 touchdowns. And the CBS graphic on the side here that goes through where these rankings go up against his past self, maybe, just maybe, is the biggest indication of his candidacy. The total yards mark of over 4,800 is a career best. The total touchdowns accounted for that we just mentioned, 43, is tied for a career best. Remember, this is a 2-time MVP already. Interceptions thrown, just 4. That's a career best. You can go through each one of them as we have and make arguments that none of them he was directly to blame for. Completion percentage, 67.9. That's a career best. We'll get to the passer rating in just a second here because entering the regular season finale, Sarah, he has a chance with a 121.6 average rating to break Aaron Rodgers' single season mark in the history of the NFL. He's got a shot to do that against Cleveland.
It's like, this is one reason why it would like be absolutely just killer and devastating if he doesn't get MVP, because he is putting on history. In this season, he has shown he has beaten Michael Vick and has staked his claim as the best running quarterback in the history of the NFL. And if we back up even just a little bit here, I said yesterday it would be tough for him to get 1,000 rush yards, that he could be the first quarterback to be 4,000 and 1,000 in terms of pass and rush yards. But if he hits 900, I mean, even if you could stop it right now, he'd be the first quarterback to hit 4,000 pass and then 850 rush. But he can just keep running that up. He could be the first quarterback to hit 4,000 yards passing and let's say 900 rushing. I mean, it's all historic stuff. And we haven't even gotten really how close he is to that passer rating. So to have that together, Bobby, I didn't even know this until I was sitting here as we had the intro and the countdown. But one of my tweets last night that put up these two things together, that he's the greatest rushing quarterback of all time and that he's going to finish with top 1, top 2. We'll see passer rating. I said, wrap your mind around that. Wrap your mind around how that is history before our eyes. I got 6,000 likes last night. I mean, it's going. I think these are the things that voters and national media are seeing. And it's just like, how can we not give it to him when we see these historic numbers, but also when we put on the tape and watched him just toy with people last night? It was so abundantly clear that Lamar Jackson was the best football player on the field last night, and that happens every time he takes the field.
And unfortunately for, Danielle Hunter's case, he was on the wrong side. For his sake, he was on the wrong side of that kind of history.
Add him to the list.
Oh my, like playing a game of cat and mouse with an all-pro caliber player is something that Lamar does in his sleep. He needs 213 pass yards and 35 rushing yards, as you were just referencing, along the lines of what you were just referencing, to become the first quarterback with 4,000 passing yards and 800 rushing yards in a season.
But he's already at 852.
He is.
So he's already got
the highest.
A little bit lower. Yeah.
That's all right. He's got the highest EPA per dropback. That's right. This must have been tweeted out prior, but he's got the highest EPA per dropback at plus 0.32 in a season since just his past self had the highest EPA per dropback of plus 0.34 back in 2019, which of course was his unanimous MVP season. And Sarah, for this and so many other reasons, you had Andrew Hawkins, former NFL wide receiver, Bart Scott, and a number of other folks on this morning's national programming shows singing his praises.
Too early. to be honest with you, Graz, because there was a lot of football left, and there was a lot of football left for Lamar Jackson against really good football teams. Like, if we put the AFC contender and playoff bracket up, you're going to see that Lamar Jackson has played against the majority of those teams. Josh Allen has had an incredible season. His best season in his career, and in any other year would be the runaway MVP. But the reality is, we're watching Lamar Jackson do things we didn't even think were possible at the quarterback position. To throw for 44,000 yards, over 40 touchdowns, as well as 850 yards rushing, he has a real opportunity to throw for 4,000 and rush for 1,000 and only have 4 interceptions to boot. He's playing at a level of football, again, we have not seen, we didn't think was possible. And if he continues that in the final week of the season to solidify and put a stamp on the fact that they're going to be division champs, it's going to be hard not to give it to Lamar Jackson. He's my front runner, and I think it's going to be tough for Josh Allen to overcome.
And Sarah, those thoughts from Andrew Hawkins kind of echoed the sentiments, plural, of many on this morning's programming, and I'm sure will continue throughout the day. And as we just referenced a minute ago, here is where Lamar stands in terms of the highest passer rating in a single season in the history of this league. Aaron Rodgers, the 2011 version of Aaron Rodgers, owns this record at 122.5. Sarah, with yesterday's performance, Lamar vaulted into the second overall position at 121.6 from a passer rating average standpoint. And here are the numbers that he would need in order to break this record and get to 122.6 and surpass Aaron, or at least the 2011 version of Aaron. It's 138.6. That's the quarterback rating that he needs going into the regular season finale should he want to leapfrog the great Aaron Rodgers.
I'm just over here still soaking that in. Bobby, before the Christmas game, he was fourth on this list. That's why I tweeted it out that way, that he's on pace to be number 4. Well, now he's leapfrogged Peyton Manning and one of Aaron Rodgers. So you said he needs 138.6 against the Browns?
That's the number.
I mean, that's a high number. What was his yesterday?
Yesterday, Lamar was, 143.9.
Okay.
In 3 quarters of work.
Well, and so like he would need to in 3 quarters of work. Honestly, it was kind of 2 quarters of work because Derrick Henry was just taking the ball nonstop in that
the first quarter was Derrick's.
When we talk about Lamar being efficient, which is why I don't know why Bills fans always want to get into the efficient conversation. Well, I do know why, because Lamar's beating in all the volume stats, but you get into efficiency. It's like, dude, he put all that up in 2 quarters basically, which is insane. So yeah, I mean, that's obviously doable. I want to see him do it. To put up the highest single season passer rating, the greatest running quarterback of all time, we want that. And it's not going to be easy. He'll have Myles Garrett coming after him, right? The Browns upset the Ravens before. The Browns have a defense, that's for sure. They know Lamar just like the other AFC North teams, so it won't be a given, but it's certainly doable. 138.6. I need to see it. I need it in my life.
Something to keep in mind going into that final regular season weekend. Again, it is week 18 against the Cleveland Browns. I believe that's a TBD still, whether it's January 5th or maybe it's a TBD on the timing, but it will be that regular season finale weekend for the Ravens. One of the many things that is on their mind, Lamar's mind from an individual statistical standpoint, historically speaking. And then, of course, for the Ravens, you got to win in order to secure that division. You can lose and get some help, which would mean Cincinnati would need to beat Pittsburgh, which is certainly potentially in play. And by the way, the Bengals are not out of this race. Let's get to some super chats. Rave Kingdom hits us with, let me address this now. Ben had a big whiff against the Texans. I want to remind everyone he's been playing center all season. A mental moment. #Ben Cleveland. What?
Rave.
Did Ben? I thought Linderbaum had it the whole way. Did Ben come in the fourth quarter?
Maybe he came in the fourth quarter. I mean,
Rave, help us out there.
They pulled Lamar and Henry. Wouldn't surprise me if some of the offensive linemen were pulled.
To be quite honest with you, when the fourth quarter came around, I was full blown on getting our show ready because it was literally a boat race. It was a boat race. Like I missed the Devontae's drop.
Rave is saying yes. He said yes, so he came in.
Rave, thank you for watching the entire
And
four-quarter performance yesterday.
Rave keeping himself accountable because he's been pushing Ben Cleveland. He's been pushing that agenda. So
thank you, Rave.
Yeah.
Abdul.
MVP solidified. Lamar has now beat every AFC playoff team with the exception of the Chiefs. That's insane when you think about it. And I really do. I mean, everybody keeps talking about when they say, well, this is what Josh Allen has. Again, I think people are pretty torn. Those who are like, well, here's what Josh Allen has going for him. It's that he's got 2 more wins. Yeah, but look at that strength of schedule. Lamar has played every single AFC playoff team. And as Abdul put out, they beat all of them except for the Chiefs. And they play in the AFC North, which is infinitely more difficult than having to play the Jets and Patriots and Dolphins twice a year. So let's keep that in mind.
And speaking to the domination single-handedly going up against Houston that Lamar and company has given the Texans, our friend John McClain, who joined us earlier in the week. It feels so funny to say earlier in the week and not say last week because it was a Wednesday game. But John joined us for his Texans perspective, and he tweeted out yesterday, Lamar's 5-0 against the Texans by scores of the following: 41-7, 33-16, 25-9, 34-10, and 31-2. He goes, that's an average 33-4. Excuse me. And he's talking about points-wise. That's an average 33.4 for the Ravens to 8.8 points per game for the Texans. And he goes on to finish it off in only the way John McClain can. That's the definition of embarrassment. So, yeah, it's been...
That penultimate score was the playoffs.
Man, here we are thinking exactly right. Here we are thinking that the utter dominance is up against the NFC. Well, it's across the board aside from 2 teams, Pittsburgh and Kansas City, which I think Abdul is pointing out here. Jang writes, watching you from the Philippines and spending holidays with family. Nice. Had to wake up at 4 a.m. to watch the game, and it did not disappoint. It's a Lamar booty beatdown indeed. Appreciate you, Jang. Love that.
Oh, that's great.
Thanks for tuning in from the Philippines, and thanks to all of you for spending part of your Thursdays with us. Please like the video if you could on the way in. If you're in the Twitter sphere, we would love for you to come join us over on the Vault, where we bring you daily Ravens content here in the YouTube space. You can subscribe if you haven't already done so and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content. The title of this video, partner, is Lamar Jackson just single-handedly shifted national conversation. We have reactions from both voters, media members, former players, current players alike. And that's what we're going to get into right now. How about first the former enemy, who is really a huge fan of everything that Lamar is about, and that is one Chad Ochocinco Johnson, who went on Nightcap, his show with Shannon Sharp, and he went off in favor of Lamar and what he's been watching.
Funny, and it's funny for me. Even I can separate the two. I can separate being a Bengal, playing for a franchise where obviously the enemy is the Ravens. But I can separate the two and understand the greatness that is Lamar Jackson. I can appreciate the quarterback playing, what he's been able to do since watching him in high school at Boynton High School, watching him at Louisville, and seeing how he's grown and matured into the quarterback he is today, when they've always said what he couldn't do. You know, we don't think he can be a quarterback in this NFL. We think he should try running back.
Yeah, hell no.
Just all the stuff he's had to overcome, all the obstacles and the hurdles, and to see where he's come now. I can honestly say this, and even as a Bengal, as much as I bleed that goddamn black and orange, I really hope he win it, the whole thing this year. I really hope he wins the whole thing this year, Unc. Not just the MVP, but goddamn it, get you a chip just to get him off your back. So there's nothing else they can say, Unc. Just so there's nothing else going to say. And if you have any type of documentary, if you have any type of film that talks about the start to the finish, I want the lead up to it, how it starts, to be all the negative things everybody said.
Hey, and let me just say, I probably could have censored that sucker a little bit more for you, partner, but I tried to get the big ones in there. Moral of the story, Ocho is riding hard for not only Lamar's MVP candidacy, but ultimately getting after that coveted Lombardi.
Do you know that is some intense, real love that Ocho has for Lamar? Because could you imagine a former Raven that was as big as Ochocinco is to Cincinnati, when your team, by the way, is not mathematically out of it? We'll discuss later how the Bengals can still get in. Like, they're fighting for their lives and want to get in. And if they do get in, you've got national shows saying, like, who'd you most not like to see? Well, the Bengals have upset Mahomes before. The Bengals have upset Allen before. And so just getting in, the Bengals could very well have a chance. And so here you have a star, a beloved star from the Cincinnati Bengals, while they're fighting for their lives trying to get in, saying he wants Lamar to win it all. You know that love for Lamar runs deep. And I get it. We all feel it. You can feel a groundswell. It's not just from his teammates. Yes, it's Baltimore. Yes, it's Louisville. And yes, it's Florida, but everybody feels that way because it's like he has overcome so much, Lamar has, and people saying he can't be what he literally is today. And to his point, the only thing he has left is that Super Bowl. So that's crazy. I mean, I don't think that Ravens fans would like it if, say, I don't know, Ray Lewis was saying something like that right now for the Bengals. You know what I mean? It's pretty crazy.
But where it runs deepest, where it appears to run deepest, meaning the loyalty, is that those South Florida ties. And Ocho being from the Miami area, the South Florida roots, we see it time and time again, whether it's the Ravens that are attracted to this, or whether it's the players that are attracted to Baltimore because of the amount of South Florida connection that there is, that Eric DeCosta has crafted, or just the fact that they grew up, or in Chad's case, he's older than Lamar, but he was so aware of the Boynton Beach Lamar Jackson legend, right? And so that he has this certain level of respect down there that I don't think we'll ever truly understand, having not grown up there. And so I think Chad does a great job of representing what's become a sentiment league-wide. Anybody that hails from that community in the South Florida area, what Lamar Jackson was like before he became Lamar Jackson. And I think that it really speaks for itself. Sarah, this is, of course, another angle. Right now we get to MVP voters, former players. Of course, Ocho is a former player, but he's not an MVP voter. Richard Sherman, I believe, is, Sarah, isn't he?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Because
I thought he was last year, though.
He was not. I know for a fact he wasn't last year, because last year he was actually advocating for Allen, because Richard Sherman is a stats guy. So he felt like Lamar didn't have the stats last year. Okay. And so if he had a vote, he would have given it to Allen, but we know that there was only one vote against Lamar, and it was Aaron Schatz.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
So whether he got one this year, I don't know, but he did not have one last year.
Okay. But one of the many who have a platform, of course, as not only a current broadcaster, but a former standout player, and he tweeted this out on Christmas night. I will say what I have been saying. Lamar Jackson has the numbers this season and should win it easily, referring to MVP. I didn't understand the sentiment that the race was over, as if Buffalo was the number 1 seed. If he ends up with 45 plus touchdowns and under 5 picks, where he currently stands, he's at 43 total touchdowns, without an MVP, I'm not sure how that is justified. Some strong words, Sarah, from a guy who's got a big voice in the NFL.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's pointing out the 45 plus and under 5 interceptions. Absolutely. And then you just add in what we already talked about, which is the rushing title and potentially a passer rating title. It just, how do you just overlook that? And he went on to go talk about this number 1 seed. And I think that he made a really good point to all those people that keep saying that, well, Josh Allen has a better record. We've already talked about strength of schedule and who each team has had to play. But he also said this, a follower said, well, Allen should have won MVP last season, but gave it to Lamar. Now better stats are now playing into the mix. So Richard replies and says, yeah, the number 1 team in the NFL argument is something that helped Lamar last season. Yep. If Buffalo was the number 1 overall team, he would likely win the same way Lamar did, but he cannot make that case. And that's what I've been saying is like, well, now here we are. Both are going to win their divisions, or most likely, as long as the Ravens take care of business against the Browns next week, which is obviously not a given because the Browns upset the Ravens earlier. But assuming they take care of business, how do you really justify saying, oh, I got to give it to Allen when he's just the number 2 seed and Lamar's number 3? Like, to Richard's point, you're not number one. That's Patrick Mahomes. So everybody that keeps making the argument, well, it's not about stats. You got to look at, record and value to the team. Well, you just made an argument for Patrick Mahomes, not Josh Allen. Because if we're not going to look at the stats, Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the stats, but he's able to finish game in and game out, and he's got the number one seed. So I feel like Bill should stop making that argument because it's actually for Patrick, not Josh.
Sherm wasn't the only one chiming in yesterday. Now, Mike Florio has a vote. That much we know. Last year, Mike unwisely stuck his neck out there prior to the Christmas game, as he likes to remind himself. And in an effort while doing so, was referred to by Lamar himself as Mike Florist or Mike Flores, or however you want to interpret it, from that classic post-game video of him walking out after dominating the San Francisco 49ers at their place, at their house on Christmas night. A year later, in game, Mike Florio not only claims that when the Ravens are clicking, there's no better team in the league, but also went as far as to put a GIF out there and confirm that Lamar is the MVP. Sarah, notable because he is, again, a voter.
Yes. Now, I happen to agree with him, but there is a part of me that wonders, are you trying to make up for what you did last Christmas? Are we trying to get back on Lamar and the Ravens' good side? Has he been denied a couple of interview requests, or like what's going on over there? So that's another one that's kind of changed his tune. I don't know that Dan Orlovsky has completely changed his mind, but we covered this last night.
Well, looky here. What do you have here, partner?
Yeah, well, he says, what the heck, Lamar, MVP was being the operative word, and it should have never been the word in the first place. Mr. Orlovsky, who I enjoy and think he has great commentary and analysis, and I will continue to watch him, and I think he's got, I think he's a great guy and a nice guy, but boy, he's got egg on his face, Bobby. He's got egg on his face because he was not backing down that it was over. And Lamar had to do what he did last night to finally get him to at least consider that it's not over.
Right. Yeah, no, it cannot be declared over after 15 weeks, and it certainly cannot be declared over by a voter, and that is Dan Orlovsky. Chris Sims, former NFL QB and Mike Florio's co-host. Again, not sure of his voter status. I believe he has voted in the past as Chris Sims. Not sure where that currently stands, but he tweeted out this morning, and wrote, Lamar was MVP last year, and this year is almost head and shoulders above that. It should be a dead heat with Lamar and Josh Allen for MVP, and that's kind of what the odds, Sarah, are indicating as well.
We may need to consider the reality that it could be a co-MVP this year.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it just seems to be going back and forth here.
Right.
I mean, I would like the whole thing, but I think that we may need to consider that could happen with how tight it is right now.
Right. While we're highlighting here, most of which is national conversation that's shifting in Lamar's favor, there is still a contingent like Chris that's pumping the brakes and saying, hey, this is really, really, really close.
Right.
And we're acknowledging of that, of course. Des Bryant and Odell Beckham Jr. don't have votes, but they're doing their part, and they were last night on X. OBJ tweeted out, as we covered in our post-game show, words don't do justice for seeing what Lamar does in person. And Des, of course, had a cup of coffee with the Ravens toward the latter half of his career. And he quote tweeted Odell and said, oh, I try to tell people all the time, 8 different.
Indeed.
What about the current teammates? They went to bat as well. Isaiah Likely reposting some graphics that we had up on the screen earlier, which puts Lamar up against his peers and the candidates for NFL MVP. And Isaiah, who of course was the beneficiary of an incredible extension of a play by Lamar Jackson before he found 80 streaking across the end zone in improv form, of course, as always with his tight ends. Isaiah was like, he looked at the numbers. He's probably feeling himself post-game, and he says, are we still debating, with a bunch of facepalm emojis, shaking my head emojis? You know Isaiah's riding with Lamar. I saw Pat Ricard tweeting that out as well. So, again, we have current teammates, past and present players, current media members, some of which are voters, Sarah. there is a shift. There's no question there's been a shift. It's just a matter of how much will that shift be after Josh plays against the Jets, and then what will take place in that regular season finale.
In the week 18. Now, Bobby, I'm cool with teammates having their QBs back. And I'm definitely cool with a simple story on Instagram. We mentioned this last night. Let me share my screen here. How about Josh Allen's offensive line and the gift that they gave him? He's running over to grab it. It's in a box. He's got it on. MVP 17. Look at that. They went all out. They went all out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they did.
Bro, that video has already gone viral. But if he were to not win it again, if he were not to win it, that video is going to live in infamy. In infamy. And that's fine. They can be like, well, he's still the MVP of our team. And he is. But that's crazy they went that far. They were really listening to the Dan Orlovskis of the world and were like, let's put the money down and get him this necklace.
For sure. There is a very real scenario that while the MVP conversation will be long decided by this point, there is a very legitimate scenario based on where things stand right now that the Ravens and Bills will meet up in the divisional round in Western New York. And that's going to be a heck of a matchup. And we've seen it before, partner. We've seen it before in the playoffs between Lamar and Josh, and it did not go in Lamar's favor. He was concussed. He left the game. It was cold, as it tends to be in January in Western New York. I can say that as an upstate boy. But there's a very legitimate scenario that could play out, that we see the two front-runner candidates, one of whom will have won the award by then, or maybe, to your point, it'll be a co-MVP. That could take place in January.
Eric said Lamar Jackson snatching chains out here. That's exactly what would happen if Lamar were to win the MVP. Be basically snatching that chain right off of Josh. So, Bobby, I want to transition, unless you had anything else. I want to transition into the Derrick Henry conversation.
Yeah, and can we get to some super chats before we do so?
Let's do that.
Ravens for Life says Lamar has exceeded a passer rating of 138.6 6 times already this season. Again, that's the number he needs to reset and rewrite the record books when it comes to single season best all time in the NFL when it comes to passer rating. The all-time record, an MVP, and Super Bowl in one season will be amazing. LFG, Ravens for Life. Good stuff. Dustin, again, Sarah, coming back for more.
Like I said last night, just win, baby.
There it is. Nate Campbell writes, for 2 straight weeks, our Darius has woken me up from a different zip code. How poetic would it be for Lamar to get a chip in the same stadium the Ravens won their last? Good stuff, Nate. And yeah, our Darius continues to play with a tenacity that is just so fun to watch. None of your beeswax.
I'm with Chad. I have never wanted to see a player win it all so bad. I know of the goalposts. I know if the goalpost will always move, but I still want that off his back. It definitely will. Like, even listen, I haven't finished it yet, but you've asked me about the Netflix documentary on Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
I haven't finished it yet. But it is interesting because when he's a 4-time MVP.
Aaron is 4 and then a 1-time Super Bowl champ.
I forgot how early in his career he won a Super Bowl. It was before the majority of his MVPs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I forgot that was early. And so, point being, they kept playing on the show, everybody talking poorly about Aaron Rodgers, similarly to how they're doing with Lamar and using the MVPs against him. And I was like, man, the media were just rough on him. And this is before he became more political, right? This is before COVID and all that kind of stuff. Like, it was just strictly speaking about his play. They were tough on him. And they were like, oh, well, he hasn't been to the Super Bowl for 5 years and he keeps winning these MVPs and he keeps falling short in the playoffs. And they would exit early too. Like, whether it was the wild card round or the division round, a couple times it was the NFC Championship game. So let me tell you, he'll win this. If he wins a Super Bowl, they'll give him his love until he starts playing poorly, until he starts getting older and whatever. That is what will happen for sure. But when it's all said and done, they'll go back to talking glowingly about him, as they do all the greats after they're done, and talk about everything that he's earned. But 1000%, even if he wins a Super Bowl, at some point they're going to start talking badly about him again, because that's the nature of this business.
Aaron was drafted in 2005, took him to, I believe, 2007 or 2008 to take over for Brett, of course, Brett Favre, who he backed up for his first several years in the league, and then won in 2011. So think about that. He is still in this league. He could very well be a bridge quarterback next year for the Jets or another team at 41. He turns 42 next December. He's still in this league, and it's over a decade, partner, since, to your point, that he won a Super Bowl, but yet he was racking up all those MVPs as recently as 2021. 11, 14, 20, and 2021 were his 4 MVPs. And of course, 11 was the year that he also won Super Bowl MVP as well. Joe Jenkins, let's see, where did we leave off with Super Chats? He writes, I truly believe that we could beat the Chiefs now, as long as the refs are fair. We're a better team than in week 1, and we lost that by a toe. Scott
We're
Dibble.
going to talk about Chiefs in a minute. Ravens likely finished 12-5 with a super tough schedule. And if not for JT9, early struggles, would probably have 2 or 3 more wins. Bill's schedule is weak and not enough to put him ahead of Lamar, LJ8, MV3.
And Benjamin writes, if the Bills win on Sunday, do you think they sit Allen week 18 with the 2nd seed locked up? I could see that potentially being the case. Why not? You can't get any better than
they want a pat stat. I mean, I do that all the time.
Pad.
Stat pad. But yes, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? Yeah.
And Megalodon.
Gotta love how Bills have a worse team is Lamar's fault in Bills fans' eyes.
We appreciate you guys for being with us. Hope you're having an awesome holiday week. 3,100 plus right now concurrently watching. If you're in the Twitter space, please consider popping over to YouTube. You can check it out for a better viewing experience and get more involved in the show. And also, if you'd like a comment read via the Super Chat feature, you can't do that in the X space. Just so that you're aware, please like the video if you haven't already done so. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content. To the king.
To the king. 74.1% success rate against the Houston Texans. Bobby, the highest by any player in a game with 25 plus carries in the next gen stats era, which is since 2016.
By the way, this is an extension of Lamar's MVP candidacy conversation.
Yeah. Well, and I want to be careful about that. Okay, so 165 all-purpose yards, 1 touchdown. 86 of those yards were like in his first 10 carries. It's just bananas. Bananas. So I want to have this conversation carefully, because I am not going to do what Bills fans are doing to Josh Allen's teammates, which is just trash him in order to make Allen look better. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and trash a future Hall of Famer. Derrick Henry's legit, and Derrick Henry is potentially the key. This is why they signed them, to assist Lamar and the Ravens to get over the top, because they've been knocking on the door for years and years and years and years. So, yes, indeed, Derrick Henry helps the Ravens and he helps Lamar Jackson. And yet, why is it that when the national media talk about Derrick Henry, they act like the help only goes one way? That's really what I want to understand here. Everybody keeps acting like it's only one way. And this is very important, Bobby, because as I listened to media this morning, including MVP voters, the conversation kept coming down to, because the 2 quarterbacks are so close in their minds. And so they come to the word valuable. Valuable. What does it mean? Well, shoot, if you take Lamar, Patrick, Burrow, any of those guys, take them off their teams, they're all going to become losing teams. So, and then what if you were to switch them? Like if Lamar were to go to Bills or Josh would go to Kansas City and Mahomes, you know what I mean? Like they're all going to still be in the playoffs. You could do a merry-go-round and put these quarterbacks on each other's teams, and they're all still going to be good teams. Okay. So then if you can't take that out, it's just like, okay, like how do you define value? So I want to bring out this conversation from the facility that they had this morning. And Emmanuel Acho was very careful not to name a winner or even really a front runner, because I think he's learned his lesson about declaring races over, as we talked about last night. So this whole idea of value and how you measure that was a topic that they kept discussing. I took out a quick 1 minute or so clip to highlight the point that they're grappling with on the word value.
It's so difficult. Now, offensive player of the year, Lamar Jackson easily. Because if I'm on side with Jay,
hold up, God darn it. Like 2-6 in Philly, like running backs ain't just doing that.
Saquon's gonna break the record.
Running backs ain't doing that, Acho.
With all due respect, this is where I agree with James.
You just woke me up. Me too.
This is where I agree with James wholeheartedly. Lamar Jackson looks better than Josh Allen. With all due respect, like after I was on the flight back yesterday, the Steelers game was already a blowout, and so I said, let me start rewatching the Ravens games from this season. I have the apps where you can just watch passing plays, so I can do it efficiently. Lamar looks better than Josh. Period. He just does. It doesn't take into the context that Shady just brought up.
No doubt.
How come Lamar can look so much better than Josh? Is he just better than Josh, or are there other things that help him look better than Josh? But to James's point, and so y'all know, Lamar on tape looks better than Josh Allen. That does not mean he is more valuable. That just means his offensive season is best.
You see what I'm saying, Bobby? Like I get the value conversation, because Acho even brought he showed a letter that MVP voters received last night from the NFL to define the criteria, and they were emphasizing the word value. And so it's very subjective. But and so I get it. Like that becomes very subjective, because again, if you do these hypotheses of like, well, if you take this quarterback away and what happens to the team, like that's all like conjecture. You know what I mean? Like we're not living in the here and now. And so, but what he did right there is exactly what I said before, is he he was like, Lamar looks better, which is crazy. So Lamar has easily the better stats. And then Lamar, to me, it should have solved the question for Acho. He puts on the tape and he says, Lamar looks better. So what are we doing here? This isn't a situation where he's throwing up prayers to say Jamar Chase, and then Jamar Chase is mossing somebody. That's not what's happening. So like, if Lamar was really poor before and suddenly was an MVP now and he wasn't before, then I could credit it to Derrick Henry. But he's been an MVP before, and he's not throwing up prayers. He's opening up things for others. That's what happened on the Isaiah Likely touchdown. Are you kidding me? That was all Lamar. So RG3 is picking up on this, and I've been pounding the table, and I'm glad RG3 is, because he's got a bigger voice than I do. He said Lamar Jackson has allowed Derrick Henry to have the easiest 1,700 yards of his career. Lamar is constantly taking guys out of position to open up bigger running lanes for him. Henry had 241 yards before contact last year. This year, Bobby, it's more than doubled. This year, he has 581 yards before contact. Then I can't say it like he would. My God is the way he would say it, right? And nobody's talking about that. I'll bring this up. I brought it up the other day. In his 2020 campaign, where he had the most yards, right? 2,027. This is going to be his second highest volume of yards, 1,783. Okay.
With another game to go.
Look at how many attempts, 378. He's got so far 73-ish less attempts.
Yep.
And that's why if you go over to the right, he's having career years in success rate, 59%. Even in his best year of 2020, he's beating that. Look at this. Yards per attempt, 5.8. Go to his best year ever of 2020. He's beating that. How is it that everybody just keeps assuming that Derrick's helping Lamar, but not vice versa? I don't get it. And then one last thing. I'm sorry, Bobby. I know I'm going on a little bit of a rant here. We'll get you in here. But last night, one of the super chats said, Sarah, can you educate people on what's happening with outside linebackers / defensive ends? and their focus on Lamar. I played the clips from the Steelers game over and over and over again. The defensive ends were worried about Lamar. Well, yesterday, once Derrick Henry started going off, they started keying in on Derrick Henry. Shannon Sharp brought in, articulated it so well during Nightcap last night. He'll explain what went down.
What happened was they got up to this great running start, and you saw what the Texans tried to do. They started pinching. They started knifing. And Todd Monken said, okay, Will Anderson Jr., you want a knife?
Right.
Hey, we're going to fake it. Lamar, you keep it, and we're going to pull it around. And now he hit his head on the goalpost from 48 yards away.
Yep.
I'm going to make you play us honest now. Now, if you want to go against what you're supposed to do and knife down in there to trap Derrick Henry in the backfield, okay. Hey, Lamar. And people are like, well, what do you mean by knifing? It's when they take the defensive end and they try to cross the guy's face. Because you see, the two negative runs he had, what happened? The guy knifed and they made him bounce it. Yep. So that's what I want him to do. I don't want his shoulder pass square to the line of scrimmage. I want him going parallel to the line of scrimmage because now he can't get a head of steam and he can't hurt me. If you look at when he got his yardage, he's going downhill. I don't want him going downhill. I want him going laterally. That way I can push him to the boundary. If I let him get downhill, hell, he's gonna fall. He's gonna fall for 2 yards. Now you let him get a couple of steps. Now he's gonna get 4. He's gonna get 6 yards. But Todd Monken did a great thing to counter that.
And Sarah, that's what Pittsburgh did so well the first time these two teams played each other in Week 11. Derrick is not as big of a threat when you force him to run laterally. If he gets between the tackles, right? If there's different QB options involved in the quarterback run game and everything that he and Lamar consist of in the backfield, good night. He's going downhill, and if not, Lamar's going to take it and pull it and go. And that's what he did for 48 last night. So that I hadn't heard that yet. That was a great pull.
Yeah,
stuff there.
So I'm happy, Bobby, because we've been beating this drum now for over a week or two. So I'm happy to hear it elevated from, local shows like ours, and now it's elevated to RG3 and Shannon Sharp. And so if they can get that voice out there to more MVP voters, those are things that they have to consider. Absolutely, Derrick Henry makes Lamar Jackson's job easier. But why are you assuming that Lamar Jackson isn't making a 30-year-old running back's job easier? It's mind-boggling to me that nobody's considering the reverse.
It has to go both ways. It cannot be a one-way street, and that's what we've just been trying to reiterate time and time again. Both of these guys have been incredibly effective for one another, and it's vice versa, both ways, two ways.
And hat tip to Todd Monken, because
sure,
does he set it up so well. Shannon I'm glad he mentioned Monken, because Monken is in his bag also, where before it felt like, what are we doing with this Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson duo? What's happening here? And it wasn't quite in sync. Well, since the bye, holy moly, has he been like, I'm setting you up. Like, I'm going to keep doing this until you stop Derrick. Or the day before, okay, if you're going to keep going after Lamar, you know what I mean? Like, he just, as soon as he gets him to bite, and Shannon Sharp was absolutely right. When Will Anderson Jr., it was the first time Derrick Henry had a loss, where he just knifed right to him. Yeah. And then it was like, okay, Lamar, a few drives later, bye-bye, 48-yard touchdown. Yeah. Keep knifing.
Man, keeps defenses on their toes time and time again. He was surgical from the opening jump with that opening drive that we talked about. The balance, the amount of guys that are having career years. Andrews has got 10 touchdowns. His receiving yards are obviously down, but he's been on a tear the last 2 months. You've got Zay Flowers with a career year in receiving yards over 1,000. You've got Bateman having a career year over 600 receiving yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns. Lamar speaks for itself, and the King being a top 2 rusher at 30 years old, being 31 coming up next month. I mean, all those speak for themselves, and we haven't even gotten to the other aspects of the offense as well. We've got more super chats that are pouring in. Rave Kingdom got you here with the pad stat instead of the stat pad. Hey, you got a lot on our mind here. It's multitasking, Rave. Miguel.
What's up, Boxing Bobby?
He wants to invite me to a post-Christmas couple of rounds, huh?
Oh, we going for a couple. When is this happening? Can we do an off-season show where you box?
Hey, Miguel, you want to set it up? You local in the Baltimore area? If not, we'll fly in. Let's run it up.
I need this.
In the ring.
I require this in my life.
I believe Dr. Ad Sykes, if memory serves, was the other one who invited me. So Appreciate the invite.
Well, we can't. Yeah, we gotta it would be fun to do a couple boxing matches, but it's got to be one. We can't tire you out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I'm in there with no gloves and no protective equipment all day long, just with subscribers coming in and out of the ring. Who's going to win that fight? I think I know.
I would like to get somebody, because I can't remember the first guy, but he was saying that he was a little bit more advanced in age. I would like to get somebody that was similar in weight and age as you.
Okay. Well, PSA, guys.
Do we have that person that listens to the show? That's what I need to know.
Miguel, 5'8", $170, 30. That's where I'm at. Those are my measurables for you.
And no, I'm not getting in the ring, Eric. Sorry to cut you off.
And Miguel, the heart of a lion. That's the one thing that I forgot to add in there. All right. Those are my measurables. Okay. David Cure.
Okay, Rocky.
That's right.
Dave says, sorry, I'm late. Lamar MV3. Who won yesterday?
There were a lot of winners for sure out of yesterday. Thor in Iceland says Josh Allen's MVP case is Embiid's MVP case too. I have no idea what anything of that is. MVP, excuse me. Thank you, Thor. And then, of course, there's been some voter fatigue with Joel as well. And we know that that's been a part of the conversation with Lamar. And, of course, if you're not familiar with Joel Embiid, go look up some of the NBA track records of his. JL Green.
I would love to see the Ravens pay back the Chiefs from last year by coming up from the wild card position to whipping them in their own stadium. That would be the dream scenario.
Yeah, and as things stand right now, by the way, if the postseason began today, the Ravens would play host to the Chargers for yet another Hardball Bowl, and it'd be back in the postseason, of course, being that they are in the AFC. Layla writes, missed the live stream yesterday. Grateful for you and Sarah and the great content. I want it all for Lamar. I'm always wondering, who are the voters for MVP? Is there a list? We need to tag them to the hashtag Vault. Let's go Ravens.
I don't like that the NFL doesn't let us know who it is. Like right now, we know it's Mike and Dan and Acho because they've revealed that. But why isn't this transparent? And like Shatz, he's revealed it. Like, why isn't this transparent? Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been trying to go down rabbit holes to figure out who the MVP voters are. Why can't we just know? This is so weird.
I agree. I think that'd be full transparency and something that is worthy of being public. Olu.
It's a lot of backtracking going on. If Josh wins after the season, Lamar has had it. If Josh wins after the season, Lamar has had it will be a travesty and a total sham of what MVP means. It's either co-MVP or Lamar outright. It's easy.
Earl writes, one thing for sure, the Vault has to be considered for Podcast of the Year. Very thorough reporting. Appreciate you, Earl.
I like that.
That's a lot of love. Daryl Jordan hits us with a super chat donation. And AD.
If you think we gonna do it all this year.
Hey, appreciate all you guys for being with us. Over 3,300 of you concurrently watching. Please, on the way in.
Now that I reread that. Yeah. I think we're going to win it all this year. Okay.
Oh, there you go. Appreciate you, AD. Guys, on the way in, please like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you're in the Twitter space, pop on over to YouTube. That's where you can find us. Lexi says the list was revealed.
Where?
We need to find that down.
Send a link in the chat.
Please do. Thanks, Lexi. And the current.
Because then I'm going to be really busy.
Right?
Once I know everybody.
Oh, you're going to be like peppering all voters with not only questions and food for thought, but also invitations to come on this show. The current playoff picture. And of course, the AFC is what we're honing in on right now. As I mentioned a second ago, the Ravens, as things currently stand, would play host to the Chargers wild card weekend. That would set up a situation, Sarah, where should Buffalo beat Denver in their wild card matchup, the Ravens would go to Western New York in the divisional round for an opportunity to play in Kansas City, assuming that the Chiefs would get past their divisional matchup, which would be the winner of Pittsburgh and Houston.
So I kind of want to look at a couple of things. So yesterday we didn't get to fully enjoy the deliciousness of the Steelers' loss. So I kind of wanted to look in on them for a second here. So Mike Tomlin had some words that definitely were caught and were listened to. He talked about how they sucked, and he called his own team junior varsity. So I hope this sound is okay on this.
That sucked, to be blunt.
Well, I guess that's it. I thought it was longer than that, but that's all I
that's all right.
grabbed. Okay.
But that wasn't the only thing either. Patrick
here
Queen and Deshaun Elliott and TJ Watt, Sarah, and Cam Hayward. It is as if there is a cancerous piece to the Steelers' defensive puzzle, and no one is calling him out. But it seems to be that there is one individual that's driving these guys berserk because they have not minced words whatsoever in the media, and Mike Tomlin hasn't either, as you just pulled in here from a transcription perspective.
Yeah, he said you can look at it from a lot of angles. The bottom line is junior varsity is not good enough. We've got to own that. But we've also got to look at what it is we need to do different. We're not going to continue to do the same things and hope for a different result. That doesn't seem sharp to me. So we're going to take a hard look at this. We got a couple extra days before we get back into it. We're going to take a look at it and make whatever necessary changes we need to make in the totality of this thing, because again, that doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good. That's just the truth and reality of it. And yeah, I mean, Patrick Queen had a Christmas gift of an interception that he wasn't able to reel in. Their formula isn't working against better teams. Their formula is we're going to keep the game close, and then last minute, we're just going to force you guys to make a mistake. Well, elite teams aren't making those mistakes. And on top of it, the few times that they do, they haven't been able to take advantage of it. So now 3 games in a row, they have lost by double digits. Lost to the Eagles by 14, Ravens 17, Chiefs 19. And then so everybody and I was definitely one of them, I felt like Tomlin had John Harbaugh's number in that first matchup, right? I felt like John got out-coached in that first game. But when I tell you the Pittsburgh Steelers fans are not happy, so Andrew, I got his name.
Filippone, he's a radio analyst and he's a radio personality in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so they're pretty upset with Tomlin right now because they're tired of like, okay, we haven't had a losing season since Tomlin's been here, but what are we doing in the playoffs? So he writes, Tomlin says that sucked after the Chiefs loss. You know what really sucked? Hearing what a great coaching job Mike is doing everywhere and never winning jack bleep in the playoffs 7 years and counting. So Pittsburgh fans are definitely upset, and you can feel the frustration growing. And Bobby, this is why you have to be patient in an NFL season. We knew, the Steelers knew, everybody knew their schedule was very easy for really the first 3 quarters of the season. It was always going to be this stretch down at the end. And here they come up against teams that are all considered Super Bowl contenders, and they couldn't compete. Which
is why I referred to that 10-3 previous record as a bit inflated, knowing that 6 of their last 8 this year on this year's schedule was against in-division opponents. And then the 2 outside of the division, Philadelphia and Kansas City. So it's been a gauntlet for them down the stretch. They've had to prove themselves, and so far they've come up short. They'll have an opportunity to knock off the Bengals' chances in the regular season finale of remaining in the postseason picture. And Cincinnati needs quite a bit of help on their path, their potential path, I should say, to the playoffs. What they need to do, first and foremost, is beat Denver week 17, which is coming up this weekend. They need to win out. Denver and Pittsburgh, their last 2 games, first and foremost. Then Denver loses to Kansas City in week 18. And by the way, the Chiefs are probably going to be sitting everyone. So just keep that in mind. Carson Wentz, I'm guessing, will be the starter under center, and can't imagine Travis Kelce will be out there. Like all starters, as many starters as they can, I'm sure will sit. So 1 is beat Denver, 2 is beat Pittsburgh, 3 is Denver loses to Kansas City, 4 is Indianapolis loses one of their final 2, and they'll play at the Giants and against the Jaguars, which, I mean, that's kind of realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, it's not that realistic. Giants and Jaguars suck. And then the Colts are still very much alive. So they would need a little bit of a magic there. And then 5, Miami needs to lose one of its final 2, which is at Cleveland and at the Gents, to finish up their schedule. And if all that happens, the Bengals would land the number 7 seed and potentially go to Buffalo on wild card weekend. So, Sarah, in other words, they don't exactly control their own destiny at this point in the season.
No. So to sum it up, they have to win out. Denver has to lose out, and both Indy and Miami have to lose one of their final two.
Can I get a woof and a yikes, or maybe both?
Well, it'd be a bit of a miracle. It'd be a bit of a miracle. Here's my question to you, bringing this back to this right here. Would you like it if the miracle happened? Would you like it if Bengals were in, and then if Denver lost, they'd probably take the spot of Denver? Who would you prefer to see in the playoffs, Denver or Cincinnati?
It would be Denver.
Yeah.
Beating a team 3 times, especially a team in division, is a tall task. I'm not saying the Ravens couldn't do it. Quite frankly, I don't think Cincinnati's defense can even compete in the same stadium as Baltimore's. But this is an offense that is as hot and has a tandem that's as hot as anybody league-wide with Burrow and Chase. They have given the Ravens fits. I know that was prior to some of the adjustments that they made defensively, but I think the answer easily all day long is Denver.
Okay, well, let me throw this wrench in there, because you said it was an easy decision. Okay.
For me.
I know, but I think I might change your mind.
Okay.
Let me throw this wrench in there. Obviously, if the Ravens went against Denver or Cincy, Denver seems like the better matchup. The Ravens have beaten Bengals twice, but they've been close games, and it's like a shootout. Okay. Let me throw this in there. What if the Bengals came in and did some dirty work for the Ravens? Okay, so they come in as the 7th seed and say they knock off Buffalo. Obviously, as the 7th seed, then they're going to Kansas City. You see where I'm going?
Yeah,
you see where I'm going? Is it as easy?
I do. I see where you're going. That's a lofty scenario over there, partner. I appreciate
I'm just asking, who would you prefer? That's why I know it would be a miracle. But Bengals could what if they went in and knocked off the Bills and then the Chiefs? That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy.
It would be. And of course that's a scenario that everybody would welcome, but I just don't see how Cincinnati's even going to pull this off.
No, they're not. They're not.
You know?
But I just want to know if I changed your mind.
For the purpose of the argument, sure.
Okay.
Sure. And you know what, Sarah? You were right. You were right. Happy belated Christmas and happy early birthday. You got a birthday coming up next week.
Yes, I do.
The Chiefs are clicking on all cylinders. We know that. And Marquise Brown is back.
Well, but I pulled this in because everybody's talking about how the Ravens are hitting the stride at the right time, and that is 1,000% true. The Ravens have never looked better than they've looked since they've come back from the bye. Just complete team, okay?
Yeah.
And that's really great, and it feels good heading into the playoffs. And yet, the defending 2-time champs are also hitting a similar stride. And it's in part because Patrick Mahomes has an influx of receivers that he had lost earlier in the season.
Yeah. And the speed element, the element of speed that Marquise brings when you lose Rashee Rice, now you couple that kind of speed of Marquise with Xavier Worthy's, which is on another level. And you're like, okay, here we go. That's exactly what Andy Reid has always had at his disposal in Kansas City. It's these shifty playmakers, these incredible speed gadget type players that he utilizes to the nth degree. And of course, Tyreek Hill benefited from that for a long time. And what do you have here?
Well, you kind of just summed it up. I mean, you literally summed it up. I don't even think you read it, but it's like you've got Brown and Xavier Worthy, who are the speed guys. And Worthy, by the way, had 7 catches for 65 yards and a touchdown against the Steelers. So they got that speed that like makes you, put both your safeties back, obviously, and respect the deep game. And then you've got 2 veterans, one at wide receiver being DeAndre Hopkins. So you got a guy who these moments are going to be too big for him. And then obviously you always have Travis Kelce.
Yep.
So if the Ravens, and we still got a long way to go, but if the Ravens and Chiefs were to meet again, I think both teams are going to be playing a version of each other that was better than who they were in the AFC Championship game last year.
Yeah, I would agree for sure. this version of Kyle Van Noy is
Woo.
all pro at 33. He posted a post-game capture snapshot here of Marlon and Adafe celebrating maybe after one of his sacks or one of his impact plays. He had several of them. Kyle finished with 11 and a half sacks through 17 weeks, which is a career high. He's now tied for 4th across the league entering the weekend. And he tweeted out, "Yes, sir, another dub. Next one is for the hat and the t-shirt, of course, to the division. Merry Christmas again, Sarah, from your fellow BYU Cougar who's playing out of his mind."
You know, I love it when Cougars represent. And then a little bit more here on Kyle Hamilton. I love this
too.
This tweet by Mike Renner is my favorite.
This is great.
This is so true. This is what they do to Lamar. Kyle Hamilton is one of those players who get a bunch of prospects compared to him in the coming years, and none of them will actually be accurate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then Matt Freeman, on top of that, pulled out the receipts from his combine.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, remember when folks were caught up on his 4.59 40 at 6'4", 220? Remember, he's 6'4", 220, which is what I was trying to describe last night with that fully extended way that he created somehow his body into ability where he can haul in that interception. I mean, it was just a ridiculously athletic play at 6'4", 220, and he did run a 4.59, which is why some teams, Sarah, were weary of him at the safety position, but the Ravens were like, we're good. We're going to take him at 14, and it certainly paid dividends. He's having an outstanding year, and all 22 and the PFF crew currently have him projected out for some elite PFF grades in the major defensive categories this season. He's projected to finish with over 89 grade in coverage and this is actually too small for me. Let me just go like this. 89.6 coverage, 89.9 pass rush. Let's see this, 90.2 run defense, and an overall grade of 90.5. That's what he's projected out with PFF's grading tools as. And so, long story short, just across the board, this guy continues to be the versatile unicorn that we know he has developed into in 3 short years.
Just an all-around player that not only plays well himself, but gets his teammates in the correct position, as we've learned this year. Marlon Humphrey crediting him as the single biggest reason behind the defensive turnaround, which is insane. Yeah. That interception last night, we talked about it last night, and I still get chills when I just close my eyes and envision it. The way he had his long 6'4" body completely parallel with the ground, diving out and reaching with all the length that he has and grabbing that interception, and the hit sticks he lays on people, the smarts that he has. It's just, he's another level. He's another level, and he's gonna get paid. He's gonna get paid.
Yeah, at some point you would think in the near future, maybe this offseason, Eric DeCosta gets out in front of it. And as I've always said, whatever it is, probably won't be enough for the impact that he's given this Ravens defense and had on this Ravens defense. What about the Rook? Great campaign for Nate Wiggins over his last 9 games, according to PFF, and as tweeted out by Mike Renner, who's been all over this Ravens secondary. 18. Now, what is this? 18 for 41 targets. What is this? So it's 211 yards. Rookie Nate Wiggins over his last. I should have actually looked up what he meant by 18 to 41 targets. Does anybody know what that is? Is that 18 receptions maybe on allowed? 41? 18 catches on 41 targets maybe?
That seems like it would be a lot though. I don't think that's it.
No. Chat, can you help us out? 211 yards, no touchdowns, 6 PBUs, and a passer rating of 60.1. So yeah, I think that is receptions, and the amount of targets have been 41. So long story short, Nate has been as advertised, Sarah, and he's putting together quite the first year in Baltimore.
I had seen in the chat of somebody asking about Wiggins and his status. He did briefly leave the game, but he came back for a big chunk of the game. So I'm sure he might be a little banged up, but he finished the game and finished it, pretty strongly. So unless something else has happened, I think he should be good to go.
And this guy is certainly good to go. So good to go that he actually apologized to the defense post-game about costing them the shutout, even though Zach Orr's defense did pitch a shutout, but it was Derrick Henry that took the wrong angle, Sarah, and ended up with a safety for 2 points in Houston's favor.
Lamar did not need to apologize for that. But
You don't say.
Yeah. Something tells me Derrick Henry is also vocal about that, because he was very vocal the last time he had a fumble. The coaches were like, all right, just stop reminding us about it.
Yep.
So yeah, that apology probably would come from Derrick, but I'm sure he said something too. But I do like where Lamar's head is at, because he's like, man, he knows how important it was to them, and he leads the offense, so he takes accountability, in the good and the bad. So you do feel bad that they didn't get an official shutout, but we all know what happened.
And what do you know? Diontae Johnson, after a very, very loud, noisy, crazy week, joins the Texans, was inactive for this one, as you would imagine, and was caught post-game having some exchanges with his former teammates. This is courtesy of @suspendedx21 on Twitter. But here he is hanging with Derrick and Isaiah and Zay, and Lamar will come into the picture in just a second. There's Chad Steele, the head of PR for the Ravens, but audio-only audience, this looks like it's more than just Christmas greetings, Sarah. They all look really happy to see him, and maybe that's notable, maybe it's not.
No, it definitely looks more friendly than just hey, good to see you, bro, and stay healthy and all that. Like they're like laughing, they're jumping around. There's like, prolonged hugs and embraces. Look at that with him and Zay. So it's just a theory. I don't know completely, but one of the reasons why I think that he didn't either get cut immediately or suspended for the rest of the year, like what happened in San Francisco, is I think that the Ravens probably went to their leadership board of players, and they clearly have a great relationship with Diontae. And so I think that's probably why they did a 1-game suspension and then went to revisit it. And then, probably learned that they still weren't on the same page. And then once, injuries happened and they needed roster spots, they ended up cutting him. But that's my theory, is that the reason why he wasn't suspended longer is my guess is the players had Diontae's back.
Well, he's going to have a shot to have Houston's back here, because Tank Dell is gone. He joins the Texans. He'll probably be active in Week 18. They're going to have a chance to be in the postseason. They already do have a shot. They are in the postseason, having won the division. But they're looking like a team that's going to be one and done if they show up the way they have the last couple weeks. Shout out to a couple of our patrons who support us and have just jumped on the opportunity to be a part of our Vault Patreon community. That's Justin and Gordon C. We appreciate you guys for being with us. Thank you for the support that you give us. If you're interested, and Justin's loving it, he's been patiently waiting for this shout out. Justin, we appreciate you for hopping on, of course. And I see him all the time at the Be More tailgates. He's a great dude from PA, part of the Ravens flock country up in PA. But Gordon C., thanks for being a part of it. If you guys are interested in doing the same, you can join the Vault Patreon community by visiting patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. This goes directly towards our daily efforts of what we bring you on a daily basis year-round here inside the channel. So Merry Christmas to you both, and thanks for this continued support. I believe we have some more super chats that have come in as well. We left off with, well, who did we leave off with? AD. And so Suicide King says,
AD's down here being like, where's the super chat to Pete?
Love it.
Yeah.
Suicide Kings writes, shout out to the Ravens and our fans, #BeltToArse time. And that's exactly what Terrell Suggs, by the way, tweeted out post-game, which is pretty hilarious. Quidarius.
Mahomes had Kelsey, Hill, Kurt, and Falk. Brady had Moss, Manning had Harris, Wayne. Now it's a problem. I mean, it's so true. Go back and look at MVPs. And also, I didn't pull this. Shannon Sharp made a good point. Again, people using Lamar's record against him. He named 3 quarterbacks that won MVPs when they had 5 losses. And obviously fewer wins because they had fewer games back then.
There you go. And by the way, there's probably only going to be a seed difference, a one number seed difference between the Bills and the Ravens. Buffalo will be 2. Ravens likely will be 3, barring something unforeseen between now and the end of the NFL regular season. AD hits us with another one. Says, wanted a Chiefs L to the Texans or Steelers for Bengals. Miguel Castillo checks back in. I'll let you hit this one, even though
just
it's for
kidding,
me.
Bobby. Just memeing over here. You piece me up. You'd piece me up. Love both of you and what y'all do day in and day out. Ravens to the Super Bowl.
Miguel, appreciate you. Memeing over here.
He was joking about wanting to. Yeah.
Okay, wanted me in the ring.
Box. Yeah.
I love the shtick that we're all rolling with. We're all just embracing it. That me and every single subscriber that wants to throw hands is going to do it. Why not?
This kind of becomes serious for me. I would like to see a contender.
Apparently, yeah. Of course it does. Purple and Black writes, I need Sarah to say arse. Thanks from England, partner.
Arse.
And AD.
Or do they want to hear belt to arse?
They want it all.
Okay. Chiefs knew to win out. They scared of Burrow. LMAO.
D-Rod says Keaton looked decent last night. We need more. Maybe we will. But Justice, remember, notably, was still in concussion protocol. They have clearly viewed him as the full-fledged number 2 behind the king. And Rasheen Ali has been RB3 in recent weeks due to his special teams abilities. Rasheen did leave the game with a hip injury, so that'll be something to watch. Maybe Keaton steals some spots on game day moving forward. If Rasheen goes down, he has struggled with health throughout his rookie season, having been a 5th-round pick back in April. But I loved, and I know Sarah did too, the screen game for Keaton. Just one. It was a small sample size, but that gives you a little dose, a little tease of what could be coming up in January. And Captain Hart.
Johnson is confusing. Makes me think it was more coaching.
Oh, from a communication standpoint between Diontae and the coaching staff. Maybe. And Frank writes, if the Bills lose one game, in quotes, miracle, Ravens take the 2nd seed. And of course, their next 2 games are against the Jets, and the Ravens would have to win, obviously, against Cleveland.
Wait. So is that an argument that Bills will not rest in week 18? Is that true? If Bills lose one game? Obviously, the Ravens would have to win both their last one.
Yeah, they'd have to win the regular season finale. Don't know.
Let me check this. Let me go to the playoff matchup predictor on ESPN, please and thank you.
All right, Frank, you've inspired some diagnosing here on the fly. We appreciate you guys for being with us on this Thursday. Sarah and I will have a show at 12 noon tomorrow to finish up the week. You can go check out our post-game live stream from last night if you haven't already done so by clicking on just go back into the archives. And we will have a pullout coming out from this one as well, because Ochocinco had a whole lot to say about Lamar. So be on the lookout for that in the coming hours this afternoon. If you haven't already done so, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. Have you found anything?
Yeah, so I went to the playoff machine and I put week 17. I went ahead and gave the Bills the win because I'm assuming Josh Allen will play and that they'll beat the Jets. So then week 18, I give the Ravens the win and I give the Pats the win over the Bills. So I have the Bills losing. Now I didn't put in any of the other teams, but in that scenario, Bills are still the second seed.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think they can lose it.
Because that would just put the Ravens at 12-5. And the Bills would be 13-4. Now, if the Bills were to lose out, let's check that. Yeah, if the Bills were to lose both, then and the Ravens were to win week 18, then they would take the 2nd seed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate you, Frank. Mike M says score prediction. Belt, like I said, hashtag B2A. Justin Holt writes, love you guys. Merry Christmas.
Is he asking for our score predictions for this weekend? Is that what he's asking?
Oh, I have no idea. Mike, what are you asking? Because if it's the regular season finale, we ain't giving you one yet. Ravens and Browns is 10 days away.
Well, I think he was meaning for the games still to come this week.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't thought twice about it, but appreciate you, Mike, and appreciate you, Justin. Justin says, love you guys. Merry Christmas and have a happy new year. Hopefully all of you guys do as well. Sarah's got a birthday coming up. So
I sure do.
Can't wait to see what you have coming up next week.
What day is my birthday? What is this thing? Get off. I updated my iOS and my calendar looks crazy, but I'll talk about that another time.
The iOS update
my birthday's on Monday.
Wild.
Monday.
Yeah, you have a Monday birthday. We have not figured out what our programming schedule is. There will be a show. It's just we don't know if you're going to be around or not, and that's how it's going to be. You do your thing, and you let me know.
I know my husband's going to be at work, so that kind of throws things off, but we might celebrate over the weekend. We'll see.
All right. Well, we'll get to it. Of course, we'll have another show coming up tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern. You guys know where to find us. Please like the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel. You can join the Vault Patreon community by visiting patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. Go check out the post-game show from last night. We hit, I think, some viewership records. There were well over 6,000 concurrents at one point, which is awesome. So thank you guys for all the support. Anything else from you, partner, before we jump?
I don't think so. What day is today? Where are we? I'm so lost. Today's Thursday, right?
Well, just so you know, your birthday's coming up, just to reiterate.
Yeah.
And
well, I knew. I
just
didn't know which day because like my days are so thrown off right now with the. Okay, so Christmas was Wednesday. It's Thursday. Okay.
Yep.
So we have a show tomorrow. For some reason, I was thinking tomorrow was Saturday.
We do have a show tomorrow.
Get ready for a show tomorrow.
So we're looking forward to that. And we're looking forward. I know Tila's like, I don't even know what day it is.
Tila, you get me. You get me.
You guys all get it. It's weird. This is weird. 3 games in 11 days. They're through the gauntlet. They've outscored their opponent since the bye week 100-33, and now they control their own destiny. That's where things are at right now. We appreciate you guys for hanging with us. Enjoy the rest of your days. Like the video on the way out. Subscribe. It felt like I said to enjoy the rest of your days as if you guys are short on days. No. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you too, travel safe because I know you're going back up to New York tonight, right?
I think so. We were toying with 5 a.m. tomorrow, but then, as you know, that could start to get in the way of our prep for Friday's show. So I think if we just do it tonight, we knock it out, get up early. I'll be there. The studio will be set up at my mom's. The whole reason why I didn't go back was because
for Christmas,
my mom had like 20 plus people at the house, including kids, and it would have been a disaster.
The game, which is just crazy up there to do that.
Yeah, it would have been a disaster. So definitely was the right decision. Hard decision, but right decision. And my dad did fly in on Christmas Eve, so it was good to spend some time with him and go to my alma mater's mass at Loyola and just kind of like chill and make sure that we were attacking this the way that we did. And I think we did exactly that. I was really proud of last night. I know you were as well. And we just want to continue to say thanks and show you our gratitude for everything that we're doing. 34 of you dropped in super chats today. Last night we had over 70. So
crazy.
just a lot of generosity going around. We feel it. We appreciate it. And we thank you once again on the way out from this Thursday Ravens lunch hour live stream. We'll catch up with you in under 23 hours. Mike wants to know, and he's reminding me that I asked for a prediction yesterday, pregame live, of what though? Of what, Mike? I'm forgetting. And you were the one that was getting after it. I was chilling on the pregame. You and Manny were out in the Houston pregame tailgate scene. But let me know on my show later tonight, Mike. I'll be there, and I know you'll be there.
But I do have a quick question. I know you keep trying to sign off. So I don't get into like signs and stuff. Greatness says Sarah seems very Capricornian. I know I'm a Capricorn, but what does that mean? What does that mean? Like, I know Lamar Jackson's a Capricorn. Is that correct? Pretty sure.
He's January, like the first week or two of January, if I'm not mistaken, his birthday. Mike's reminding me.
Do you know anything about those?
No.
Oh, okay.
I know I'm a Leo.
Yeah, that's like where my knowledge ends. It's like I know what I am, and that's about it.
No. Yeah, I don't know what they consist of, and I don't really believe what they embody, to be honest with you.
No, but when somebody says I sound Capricornian, I wonder what that means to them.
Yeah.
Capricorns go and get what we want without the ball. I do like to go get what I want.
Mike reminding me that he predicted that it would be a belt to arse kind of game, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. Thank you, Mike, for reminding me. Mike was spot on. He said it was going to be a boat race, and that's exactly what it ended up becoming. If Dre is watching, it ended up becoming a dog walking. Okay, so that's
we're going back and forth between our two conversations and chats. This is hilarious. Lamar's birthday is January 7th, and I just looked up Capricorn. It's December 22nd to 19, so he is also a Capricorn, it turns out.
All right, there you go. Yours is coming up on the 30th. Shout out. Look forward to it. We will catch up with you guys tomorrow. Thanks for all the love, and as always, thanks for joining with us here inside the vault. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett. We will talk to you guys soon. Later.